Well, tonight, the government is issuing more enforcement orders as the fight against the coronavirus enters a very crucial stage. The state plans a rollout of the nationwide hygiene program by the end of the month, offering employment opportunities for tens of thousands hardest hit by the pandemic. It is Saturday, the 25th day of April 2020. More cases of COVID-19 have been reported across the world. These are the global numbers. And we begin with the global number of infections at 2,288,684. Now the death toll is at 201,132, while those who have recovered globally have increased to 823,742. Let's go to Africa, and the continent closes the day at 30,708. The recoveries in Africa are at 94,425, while the death toll in Africa is 1,365. In the United States now, the total number of infections are at 945,249, while the death toll is at 53,243, while the recoveries in the US stand at 110,834. On the day that the WHO announced there exists no evidence that those keyword of the coronavirus develop immunity against a second wave of attack. Let's take a look at the highlights.
Tonight,
the nationwide dusk to dawn curfew that is currently in force shall also be extended for a further period of 21 days.
The curfew lives on, but brace for even stiffer measures if the current restrictions do not work.
Hatutasusia kuongeza masharti.
Also tonight, after the pandemic begins the long journey to recovery.
There are already aspects of the post-coronavirus economic recovery plan that we are progressively rolling out. And my administration shall in particular activate micro, small, and medium enterprises across our country.
Tens of thousands to cash in on the pandemic through the National Hygiene Program. Plus,
numbers look very good.
How medical experts are handling coronavirus patients in ICU and isolation units.
There's quite a few treatments that are out there available and people are talking about them. But none of them have been definitively proven.
Debunking the medical and treatment facts and fiction. And Lake Victoria waters rise to unprecedented levels, and the effect is bare for all to see.
People have been moved away from their homes because of excessive flooding.
Floods of havoc still leaving a trail of destruction across the country.
This is NTV Weekend Edition with Ken Mijungu.
Right, good evening and welcome to our broadcast tonight. Flora Atieno is our sign language interpreter. And a quick heads up on something we are doing tomorrow night. We will be talking about mental health in times of the global pandemic, and we'd like you to share a short video with questions on any mental health issue that you may want addressed to the number 0745 925 002. The number again is 0745 925 002. We'll definitely have experts joining us to address them. The number once again is 0745 925 002. That's tomorrow night. Let's begin with our top story tonight. And the number of coronavirus infections in the country has increased by 7 over the last 24 hours, pushing the national total virus caseload to 343. The government now says the number of recoveries has also increased by 4, with a total of 98 people having recovered from the disease since it was first reported in the country in March. The number of deaths has remained at 14 for the last 3 days, while the total number of those tested now stands at 17,492. The government is, however, unrelenting in the strict measures put in place to contain the spread of the virus. President Uhuru Kenyatta has today announced an extension of the nationwide curfew by 21 days, as well as the restriction of movement in and out of the counties of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale, and the Nairobi metropolitan area. Silas Apollo begins our coverage tonight.
The nationwide dusk to dawn curfew that is currently in force shall also be extended for a further period of 21 days.
And with that, Kenyans will have to stay indoors in the evenings much longer, beginning Monday. The nationwide curfew was enforced last month to a rather steep landing for some Kenyans, and that might not even be the worst.
Hatutasusia kuongeza masharti kama wenzetu wa Kenya hamutaweza kutii yale ambaye tunaelezwa.
Cessation of movement in and out of counties of Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale and the Nairobi metropolitan area have also been extended by a further 21 days.
The counties of Mandera, Kilifi, Kwale and Mombasa have registered through their governors an increase in cases of infection and have reported this. And today we say that if this worrying trend does not reverse, more stringent measures will be taken.
At a time when some of the worst hit countries, more so in Europe, are relaxing lockdown measures, President Kenyatta insists that any such move in the country will be dictated by science.
I will continue to use the best scientific and medical advice to calibrate our response as a nation, and we shall escalate, or for that matter, de-escalate, on the basis of how vulnerable we are to large-scale infection.
It is until those large-scale infections decrease that opening up the country will be considered.
I, government, will not delay in de-escalating the measures that I am announcing today the moment our experts, because it is they in whom we should trust, inform us that the risks have reduced significantly.
That process of relaxing the strict measures, the president says, will be centered on economic recovery by opening up a few restaurants and eateries for businesses at an appropriate time. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Now, Kenyans can now heave a sigh of relief after President Kenyatta signed the tax amendment bill into law today, effectively allowing you to enjoy the benefits of tax relief measures announced in the wake of this pandemic. Now, the new law, which among other provisions grant 100% tax relief for persons earning a gross monthly income of 24,000 shillings and below. Now, this law has been designed to cushion households and businesses from the adverse effects of the coronavirus. Now, the law further revises downwards the pay-as-you-earn rate from 30% to 25%. The president has also rolled out a post-COVID-19 economy recovery plan, outlining how the government will balance easing the restrictions and opening up the country for business. Our business editor, Julian Samboko, explains.
A little under a month after it was published, and 2 weeks and 3 days after it was tabled in the National Assembly, the Tax Laws Amendment Bill has finally been elevated to the status of law, and with it come a raft of measures aimed at easing the pressure borne by the economy grappling with COVID-19. Besides the measures spelled out in the new tax law, the state is also stepping up measures to create employment opportunities at a time when thousands are out of work as businesses struggle to stay afloat in light of the COVID-19 shock. The first phase is cashing in on the crisis.
The next initiative is an initiative that we're calling National Hygiene Program. For the next 30 days, we'll employ some 26,148 workers and eventually grow to over 100,000 young people across the country.
The next phase, the government says, will be strengthening the local manufacturing industry, a move that will form the basis of post-coronavirus recovery.
And my administration shall in particular activate micro, small and medium enterprises across our country to manufacture basic medical equipment and supplies for domestic use and for export. And the Juakali sector shall take the center stage in production.
The president has further indicated that upon advice from health professionals on reasonable control of the spread of COVID-19, the government will begin easing restrictions on select business ventures.
We shall allow a few restaurants and eateries in selected counties that show the highest levels of health regulation compliance and the ability to arrange for employee testing to undertake minimal operations while maintaining measures that mitigate against the spread of coronavirus.
For an economy that was already struggling even before the crisis, resource mobilization is key to maintaining a healthy fiscal balance, and global partners, most of whom we are indebted to, are key to this endeavor.
That I have spoken to most of our development partners across the world, and I have found a very positive response. In the next couple of weeks, I believe that we shall have billions of shillings that will be added through our own initiatives as well as our development partners.
Julian's Amboko, NTV.
A good move there, restoring the hope of many who are looking forward to a possible opening up of biasharas or businesses. And President Kenyatta is expressing his disappointment with a section of Kenyans whose acts of indiscipline he says is putting the lives of many at risk. An animated Uhuru even demonstrated the use of masks as a defense mechanism, among other measures aimed at containing the spread of the virus, as Jen Goeri now reports.
Another day, another exercise of business as usual in an unusual time. A section of Kenyans carrying themselves in a manner not in line with the guidelines to keep the COVID-19 pandemic at bay. And this has already started bearing the undesirable fruits.
Wale wachache ambao wametoa, for example, ugonjwa huu hapa Nairobi, wamepeleka mpaka Mandera. Mandera sasa tumefunga. Kwa nini? Sio kwa sababu ugonjwa ulitoka Mandera. Ugonjwa umetoka hapa Nairobi kulingana na wale ambao walikosa kutii.
Now the president is disturbed and frustrated. The message to adhere to the measures has been reiterated by many, but has been ignored and downplayed by some, exposing many to the killer disease.
Hatutasusia kuongeza masharti kama wenzetu wa Kenya hamutaweza kutii.
The president receiving the backing of Mombasa, Kilifi and Kwale counties, whose territories have been hit by the pandemic and thus placed under strict containment.
People don't listen. You're not doing it for me. You're only doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for your government. You're doing it for the people you love. Or at least kama hujipendi wewe, kuna watu wanakupenda. Do it for the people that love you.
Ni aibu kubwa kwamba lazima askari wasimame mbele yetu. Ni aibu kubwa kwamba viongozi wa kisiasa ama viongozi ndani ya serikali lazima wawe karibu nasi ndio tuvae mask ama ndio tuoshe mikono.
Vita hivi tutaweza kushinda tukiwa na nidhamu, tukiwa wazalendo.
The indiscipline among some Kenyans has forced the head of state to take it upon himself to remind Kenyans on what is to be done during this difficult period.
Hakuna kitu ambayo itatusaidia zaidi isipokuwa kuvaa mask kama hii, kuosha mikono, kuweka social distancing, ukikohoa ujifunge mapua. Mambo hayo serikali haiwezi kulazimisha.
The message remains that this is a war that will not be won by a few but by all. Jane Goeri, NTV.
Now, speaking of indiscipline among Kenyans, 57 worshippers of Mitume Seventh-day Adventist Church, that's in Saboti constituency, have been arrested for contravening guidelines bearing the congregation. Now, the worshippers claim that they misinterpreted Justice Aaron Makau's ruling on Thursday regarding alternative ways of worship. They claim that they understood the ruling to mean that the ban had been lifted. Tanzania West Deputy County Commissioner Abdullahi Halif said those arrested will be arraigned before being taken to the quarantine centers. The judiciary on Friday clarified that the High Court ruling directed churches to seek alternative forms of worship, such as broadcasting services online or on television. 3 petitioners had sued, among other people, the AG and the Cabinet Secretaries for Health and his interior counterpart.
For failing to adhere to the provisions of the Public Health Act and for failing to observe social distancing. We are going to quarantine them on mandatory and forceful quarantine for a period of 14 days.
Away from that, President Uhuru Kenyatta has affirmed that Kenya will not be a testing ground for a COVID-19 vaccine. This comes days after researchers at the Oxford University in the United Kingdom announced a plan to carry out vaccine trials in the country. The president says Kenya's own institutions are involved in the process of developing a vaccine and will offer guidelines and guidance on the procedures of the trials.
Msidanganywe ya kwamba kuna lolote ambalo linaendelea kuhusu testing ya vaccines ambazo hatujui hapa kwetu Kenya. Yeah? But our institutions, like I said, specifically KEMRI, Kenya Primate Research, and others, are involved in the global effort to try and find a vaccine.
Now, the government is urging Kenyans who reside in areas prone to flash floods to find safer alternative places as heavy downpour continues to leave trails of destruction in many parts of the country. Ngina Kirori has the details.
That 29 Kenyans have lost their lives in Elgeyo Marakwet alone, and dozens more have been displaced across the country as a result of the heavy downpour, exemplifies the gravity of the resultant humanitarian crisis. The government is now urging Kenyans to be vigilant and move to safer grounds in risk areas.
We, on our part, have mobilized the deployment of resources, including rescue personnel from our various security and humanitarian agencies, covering the Kenya Defense Forces, the National Police Service, the Ministry of Special Programs, amongst other agencies, to assist in these affected regions.
In Nyando, Kisumu County, the floods response turned political. Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa failed to show up at a meeting to assess the impact of floods at Kamagaga Evacuation Center in Muhoroni Sub-County.
The people are suffering. People have been moved away from their homes because of excessive flooding, and yet we want to bring politics into this. The CSS have been blocked from coming to assess the damages because the county commissioner and the governor felt that they were not involved.
The loud jeers drowned out Governor Anyang' Nyong'o's attempt to outline the measures the county has taken to protect locals from the adverse effects of the flood and the spread of COVID-19 disease. In Kilifi County, the Kenya Meteorological Department is warning of increased rainfall over the weekend. Residents have been advised to move to a higher ground as the rising levels in dams along the River Tana could lead to displacement.
Watu wote ambao wanaishi katika sehemu ya tambarare ya Mto Sabaki waondoke na waende katika sehemu za miinuko.
Elsewhere, residents of Thika Town in Kiambu County have not been spared from the effects of flash floods in the Goingwa estate area. The murky water bringing in dirt and insects into their home. Residents are worried of the potential waterborne diseases. The Kenya Red Cross is notifying the public to reach out for assistance through their 24-hour emergency line 1199. Gena Kirori, NTV.
And as the heavy rains continue pounding most parts of the country with devastating consequences in some areas, those living in islands in Lake Victoria are now worried about the swelling water levels. 4 islands, including Mijungu Island, are hardest hit as hundreds of houses and business premises are submerged underwater. NTV's Bernard Ojwang was at Remba Island, from where he filed this report.
The ongoing heavy rains have seen an unprecedented rise in water levels at Lake Victoria. The rain and flooding upstream has also left parts of a number of islands in Lake Victoria submerged. The homes here have not been spared.
Tangu tuanze kuvua hapa zaidi ya miaka 20 tujawahi shuhudia mvua kama hii, tujawahi shuhudia ongezeko ya maji. Hii ndio mara ya kwanza tumekuwa tukiishi na amani. Sasa maneno ya mvua imeharibu kila kitu. Kuna wengine wameshindwa hata mahali ya kuenda na watoto. Kama hapa zilikuwa guest na mahali zingine kuna watu walikuwa wana rent. Hapa hakuna mwenye sasa anaweza hata ingia. Kwanza ni deep na tulikuwa tunaoshia mavyombo huko nyuma, na sasa hii hata kufika huko ni shida, kuingia ni shida, kila mahali imeharibika.
Remba is a small fishing island with a population of about 5,000 people. fishing activities here have been affected following the rising water levels. The situation promises to worsen, with the weatherman predicting more rainfall next month.
Sasa imefika mahali ambayo kwamba ilikuwa ni manyumba 20, 30, 40, leo imefika manyumba 500. Jana peke yake tulipata hasara ya boti 12 ilipasuka.
Tumeteseka kuanzia jana. Hatuna mahali ya kulalia, nyumba zote zimeenda na maji. Watoto tunahangaika na watoto, sisi kama akina mama tunalala kiwanjani, tunateseka kusema ukweli.
Well, these are just some of the residential houses and shops that have been submerged by water here in Remba Island. And according to locals, it is not only alone. Most of the islands in Lake Victoria have been affected, Mijungu included, and now they are appealing to the authority concerned to chip in and save the situation.
Nilikuwa nafanya kazi hapa kama mhudumu. Hizi nyumba zilikuwa 30 na saa hizi zimeharibika zote, hakuna customers. Kwa siku nilikuwa naweza pata kama zikijaa zilikuwa kama 10,000, saa nyingine 9,000. Saa hii hakuna wateja juu vyumba vyote vimeharibika.
Limevunja nyumba, limevunja rasilimali za BMUs, na huenda beaches zetu kama zenye ziko kwa vezewa tutakuwa na mielekeo kama serikali haitachukua msimamo mkali na kuangalia jinsi ya kusaidia wavuvi uvuoni.
It does not affect Remba alone. It affects most of our islands from Remba, Ringiti, Takawiri, Mfangano Main, Rusinga. So it's a massive destruction that if we don't control, we will lose our people and their property.
Homa Bay County Beach Management Unit says that at least 78% of the beaches in the region have been submerged as Lake Victoria continues to eat away the land. The unrelenting lake had destroyed business structures and fish banders.
Ile hasara tunakadiri kuyapata saa hizi ni kadiri ya milioni karibu 300 na kitu kwa muda wa siku 22 zilizopita.
The Homa Bay County government, through its fisheries department, has pledged to relocate fishermen from the affected islands.
Now what we are doing, we are mobilizing food so that at least we secure the families which have already been adversely affected. I'm aware that as of yesterday, about 60 families were relocated to the primary school in the island. Many of them are also considering moving out of the island. There is an extent which if the water level reaches, then definitely people will have to be moved out of the island. This is something which we are considering and we are in discussion with our partners.
Bernard Ojuang, NTV.
Well, those people need to run when they still have the opportunity to go, because I have been to Mijungu Island. It's about the size of a football field, and it's not funny when the water swells to a level that it has to cover the island. They need to run. I don't even understand how they're saying it should be controlled. How do you control flooding on an island that is right in the middle of a lake? Well, let's remind you before we take a break of something we're doing tomorrow night, and we are talking about mental health, especially at this time of the global coronavirus pandemic. And there's a lot of questions that you have been asking us on social media, and you want to know how to behave at this particular moment, and even your concerns about just mental health. We are going to have experts in studio tomorrow night on the weekend edition to answer some of your questions, and you need to send us a short video about 1 minute to the number on your screen, 0745 925 002 0745 925 002. We'll sample some of them with the experts and they'll be answering your questions and concerns. Let's take a break. We'll be back.
If we continue to behave normally, this disease will treat us abnormally.
What do you see on the horizon? They say how you start your decade will determine how the rest of it will be. Imagine a decade full of opportunities, investment being one of them. Do you want a place to feed your mind, body and soul? A place to unwind every day, where you can get your health and fitness goals attained? A secure place for your family? A center for quality academic goals for your kids? Or perhaps a place to connect with your friends? Well, you can get all this and more at Amani Ridge, the place of peace, just 20 kilometers from the CBD. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
Dettol's main objective is to help children protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold? No! They are spread through germs on your hands. Your hands collect germs that causes diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands regularly with Dettol soap that gives the best germ protection ever against many illness-causing germs.
Wash, wash, wash your hands. What you have to do is bath, bath, bath yourself. Dettol soap every day. Wash, wash, wash your hands.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Nyaje wa Kenya, hii ni public service announcement kuhusu coronavirus.
The Ministry of Health advises all returnees from abroad to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, whether they feel well or unwell.
Wash your hands regularly following the 8 steps of hand washing. Wet hands with warm water. Apply a small amount of soap. Rub palms together. Rub fingers and thumbs and the beads in between. Rub nails on palms. Rub the back of each hand. Rinse with clean running water and dry thoroughly with a clean dry towel.
Furthermore, it is advisable to cover your mouth and nose adequately when sneezing or coughing and immediately dispose of the tissue in a dustbin. Please do not use handkerchiefs if you can avoid it. If disposable tissue is unavailable, cough into your elbow. Try and avoid close contact with anyone showing signs of respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing.
Before you share any coronavirus information on social media, please verify it with Ministry of Health to avoid panic and alarm among your fellow Kenyans.
Oya ni aje, mimi Jonte Fresh. Mimi ndio nimetambulika hii Gikomba yote sekta ya manguo. Jumio transform nguo ordinary za mtush zenye ziuka mna hii harufu ya bail into the freshest igikosi yote. Siri ni hii real mpya ya pink. Na kushow mtush zinang'ara kung'ara kushinda kamera. So clean, so fresh. Ma customer unaisana na hii story. Ninatumia aerial touch of down mpya tu.
It has been described as a silent killer. What exactly is pulmonary embolism?
This is a situation when a blood clot jumps into the lungs.
I had 2 clots and a pulmonary embolism that was suspected but could not be confirmed.
Pain in the calf, swelling of one leg, pain when breathing in. If you have that, go to the hospital.
We're talking about pulmonary embolism and you can abbreviate it to PE.
Ensure you go to the hospital. Don't assume anything.
Well, tonight, NTV takes you inside an intensive care unit ward where critical patients are taken care of, and the COVID-19 pandemic has stretched out such facilities in other parts of the world. Leila Mohammed went into one such ward at the Aga Khan University Hospital to find out what goes on in there to ensure the patients who are brought in live in good health.
It has been a month and a half since Kenya recorded her first case of positive COVID-19 in the country. And with just about 300 cases, it is said that 10% of those end up behind such doors in ICU facilities in hospitals across this country. And some have been admitted here at the ICU in the Aga Khan Hospital. And this morning, we find out how doctors have been able to take care of them until when they were moved to the general wards. Beyond this corridor is a red barrier that demarcates the COVID-19 intensive care unit. Not much is happening here this morning, as all 5 active coronavirus cases that were here have either fully recovered or no longer in critical condition. In the ideal COVID-19 situation, the nurse taking care of the patient would suit up in special garb to prevent themselves from the virus infections as they set up the patient for medical examination. And when the patient is ready, the doctor checks key organs which give an understanding of his patient's status.
This is a young, healthy volunteer who's simulating this. Respirations, anywhere between 12 and 20 would be acceptable. In our case, we're usually dealing with low blood pressure.
Dr. Martin Musumbi is an internal medicine physician at the Aga Khan University Hospital. On a typical day, he'd look out for other complications that may arise from the patient's dependence on machines as well as lack of mobility.
To prevent muscular atrophy, we do actually have our nursing staff do physiotherapy. We can either use compression devices to keep the patient from developing blood clots in the legs, which will typically transform into blood clots in the lungs, which is what you hear people calling pulmonary embolisms or PEs. Sometimes when somebody is intubated and has a breathing machine, they do develop what we call gastric ulcers, or they do develop bleeding in the stomach. So we actually will give them medications.
Patients on ventilators can sometimes develop complications with oral hygiene.
We actually do pay very good attention to oral hygiene of the patient, and we use certain things that would actually inhibit bacterial growth in the mouth, which can lead into developing pneumonia.
And just like elsewhere around the world battling an unfamiliar enemy, each case successfully treated has reacted differently to the medication.
I really can't say that this medication has worked or this medication has not worked. We have tried various medications. We've tried hydroxychloroquine on our patients. We have tried antibodies on our patients. We have tried some antibiotics on some of our patients. Some of them were able to tolerate some of those medications and some were not able to.
Researchers all over the world are in a rush to develop a definitive treatment method and medicines for COVID-19. Dr. Musumba says the novel nature of the disease makes this challenging.
Of course, it varies from patient to patient. It depends on how well you respond to the management. You have to realize that with COVID care, there's quite a few treatments that are out there available and people are talking about them, but none of them have been definitively proven to be a cure, so to speak, for COVID-19. There's a few promising treatments out there, but as far as response, it's basically how well the person is able to fight off the infection. And so that time period varies. We are seeing anywhere from between 7 days to 14 days.
While critical care in ICU facilities is quite pricey, the hospital administration says it is difficult to put a definitive figure to the treatment at this stage.
You can be in intensive care unit, not on a ventilator. You can be in intensive care unit on a ventilator and you need dialysis, okay? The complexity of the disease impacts the cost.
The hospital is handling less critical cases in its isolation wards, but the management is, however, keenly monitoring the national testing and tallying and are on call. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Well, thanks to Leila Mohammed, it feels as though we were inside the intensive care unit. And now to their good deeds. Now, health workers continue to receive praises for their commitment and determination in the fight against COVID-19. More than 200 health workers received flowers from police, imagine, based in Siaya County, led by the commander Francis Colley. Now, the police say that it is a gesture of appreciation and encouragement for their good work. Colley also asked Kenyans countrywide to show their appreciation to the medics who continue to risk their lives to make Kenya a better place. The police also distributed foodstuffs to vulnerable families in the county as a way of encouraging them to stay at home as a precautionary measure in the fight against the coronavirus.
It is the time we are fighting with a pandemic that is invisible, that needs all concerted efforts from all agencies and from all Kenyans. So we chose to go and welcome our medics to what we normally go through, that it is only resilience that will make us win. We went also to celebrate 98 cases that have recovered, to appreciate them to do more, because those are lives saved.
Actually, police officers are some of the heroes of this war on the coronavirus. They've been doing quite a lot of noble things to the general public. In fact, now you see them differently. Right, time now for another break, but we'll be right back. Don't go.
The risk of illness-causing germs is increasing. It is believed that the coronavirus can remain on surfaces in your home for up to 9 days. Touching infected surfaces is one of the ways in which germs spread. Regularly disinfect your floors, countertops, and kitchen surfaces with bleach, and use an effective toilet cleaner inside and outside your toilet bowl. This message is brought to you by Medifacts, JIC, and Hapik.
Selena!
Toto, where's mommy?
Today's a toilet day.
What? Oh.
Selena!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow we're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
It's a toilet, not a white shirt. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with bleach and detergent, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible.
Challenge. Hapik 10X. Even if you use bleach and detergent 10 times, they won't give you the same sparkling clean toilet that Hapik 10X will give you.
Wow!
Hapik 10X. Hapik, Kenya's #1 toilet cleaner.
I've discovered the world-famous Molfix and saw the difference. Let's see how absorbent Molfix is.
Molfix, thanks to its ultra-absorbent particles, can keep more liquid than the other diaper brand, so you can use it comfortably all day long.
All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
Good morning, Janet.
Wow! And you are?
I'm Casey. Now help you with anything to do with your KCB bank account. Pay bills, transfers, statements.
You're hired!
I'm your internet banking security ninja. I'm your 24/7 personal assistant.
Super!
So, we can always talk about your account, online, whenever you like. Need a ride?
Let's go!
Alrighty! With you anywhere, anytime!
Register at your nearest branch for KCB Internet Banking today.
Maritime tips brought to you by Kenya Maritime Authority. Precautions for vessel and boat owners, operators, coxswains and passengers. Personal hygiene. Practice frequent hand hygiene, coughing and sneezing etiquette. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces on board the boats and vessels such as steering wheel, safety or guardrails and seats. Crew members, coxswains and passengers to regularly disinfect life jackets. Practice frequent hand washing with soap. Wear a mask on board a boat or vessel. Boat owners and operators to comply with government directives on movement restrictions within counties. Kenya Maritime Authority for safe and efficient water transport.
Now, Kenya has joined the globe in marking the World Malaria Day amid growing challenges presented by COVID-19 pandemic. Now, these include disruptions to interventions and measures aimed at arresting the spread of malaria. President Uhuru Kenyatta says combating malaria remains a top priority. Even as the country grapples with resource reallocation to COVID-19, the World Health Organization has also warned that 2020 could see a spike in malaria-related deaths as the world pays attention to COVID-19 pandemic.
At least 3 out of every 10 outpatient cases in Kenya's healthcare facilities are attributable to malaria. This is according to the National Malaria Control Program, showing the burden the disease inflicts on households and the country's healthcare infrastructure. In 2018, there were 2.8 million confirmed cases of malaria in persons aged 5 years and above across the country. 7 out of every 10 of these cases were in the western part of the country, with the counties of Kakamega, Siaya, Busia, Kisumu and Bungoma accounting for the largest number of cases at just below 1.5 million in total. Over the same period, the counties of Nyandarua, Wajir, Nyeri, Murang'a and Kirinyaga reported the lowest number of confirmed cases of malaria at a total of 1,309 cases. In his message on World Malaria Day, President Uhuru Kenyatta has lauded the steps Kenya has made in combating the spread of the disease, notably, and I quote, reducing the prevalence of malaria from a high of 6 million infections in 2009 to just 4.6 million in 2019, end of quote. President Kenyatta has further said that the government is still stepping up measures to control the spread of the virus, including through, and I quote, distribution of over 15 million treated mosquito nets in 2020 to cover 25 million vulnerable Kenyans, end of quote. But combating the spread of malaria in an environment of COVID-19 is presenting a grave challenge to governments. According to the second supplementary budget estimates published by the National Treasury and endorsed by the National Assembly on Wednesday this week, the amount expected from the Special Global Fund grant towards combating malaria has been revised downwards from 441.1 million shillings to just 278.3 million shillings. This reduction comes even as the World Health Organization is warning that severe disruptions to anti-malarial campaigns and access to medicines could lead to a doubling in the number of malaria deaths in sub-Saharan Africa. The Ministry of Health has embarked on an indoor spraying program as a measure to curb the spread of malaria, which has been carried out in the counties of Migori and Homa Bay. Julians Amboko, NTV.
Now, veteran photojournalist John Barasa was today laid to rest at his home in Taito Village, that's in Sitagunga Ward, Trans Nzoia County. Barasa died on April the 21st at his home in Syokimau due to cardiac arrest. He was an accomplished journalist with a wealth of experience. Before his death, Barasa worked as a video journalist with the South African Broadcasting Corporation, Nairobi Bureau. He studied at the Kenya Institute of Mass Education or Communication before proceeding to Japan to further his studies on a JICA scholarship. The burial ceremony was conducted under strict guidelines with few family members and friends according him the final send-off. Barasa was eulogized as a great pillar for his family who ensured his children received good education. He leaves behind a widow, 4 sons and 3 daughters. May his soul rest in peace. Well, we're taking another break, but we'll be right back.
Have you shared your bongo points with someone who needs them? Remember to help a friend or anyone in need to buy food using your bongo points. Stay at home, but still stay together with your loved ones and friends using bongo points. Share your story or video of how you've helped a fellow Kenyan to our FB page NTV Kenya, Twitter page at NTV Kenya, Instagram at NTV Kenya, SMS 20686 or our WhatsApp number 0745 925 002.
Nyaje wa Kenya. Hii ni public service announcement kuhusu coronavirus.
The Ministry of Health advises all returnees from abroad to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, whether they feel well or unwell.
Wash your hands regularly following the 8 steps of hand washing. Wet hands with warm water. Apply a small amount of soap. Rub palms together. Rub fingers and thumbs and the bits in between. Rub nails on palms. Rub the back of each hand. Rinse with clean running water and dry thoroughly with a clean dry towel.
Furthermore, it is advisable to cover your mouth and nose adequately when sneezing or coughing and immediately dispose of the tissue in a dustbin. Please do not use handkerchiefs if you can avoid it. If disposable tissue is unavailable, cough into your elbow. Try and avoid close contact with anyone showing signs of respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing.
Before you share any coronavirus information on social media, please verify it with Ministry of Health to avoid panic and alarm among your fellow Kenyans.
Welcome home to Amani Ridge, the place of peace. Your own urban sanctuary. A lifestyle waiting for you just 20 kilometers from the CBD. A place to unwind and get your health and fitness goals attained. A secure place for your family. A place for your children to have fun. A place to enjoy a sundowner. Success just doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. Make the impossible possible. Invest in Amani Ridge, the place of peace. Luxury you can afford. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
And the news continues on Weekend Edition. We'll have sports next with Brian O'Toole, but first let's cross the borders. The World Health Organization is warning that there is no evidence that people who test positive for the new coronavirus are immune or protected against reinfection. The warning suggests that the issuance of what they call immune passports may promote the continued spread of the pandemic. Some governments wanting a gradual return to work and the resumption of economic activities have put forward an idea of issuing documents attesting to the immunity of people on the basis of blood tests revealing the presence of antibodies. Iran, for example, the health officials raised fears of a fresh outbreak of coronavirus cases in the country, which has paid the deadliest price in the Middle East from this pandemic. And the first break of the Ramadan fast took place peacefully in Niamey, that's Niger, after riots in protest against the curfew and the ban on collective prayers implemented to combat the spread of this virus. However, tension persists. More than 300 people have been arrested in recent days in the run-up to the Ramadan in the impoverished former French colony, with rioters torching cars and buildings and setting up roadblocks. Now, the lockdown has been imposed despite a relatively low COVID-19 toll in the country. Officially, there are 20 deaths from 657 cases as of Tuesday. And out of the woods, but not yet returned home, 3 patients previously hospitalized for COVID-19 recover in a hotel in France, which is surrounded by cares and without risk of contaminating those around them. A solution already declined elsewhere in Europe. Now, France is on the 40th day of a lockdown imposed to combat the crisis and has enforced a ban on outdoor activities between the hours of 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. France has more than 22,000 deaths from about 160 confirmed cases. And are you scared of death? Then you are surely, or you must be scared of the coronavirus. That's the reasoning of one man in India during the COVID-19 pandemic. This Calcutta local dressing up as a Hindu god of death, that's Yamraj, to scare residents into staying indoors. It's a noble approach to encouraging social distancing in India, where a nationwide lockdown was ordered on March the 24th to halt the spread of the virus. And we've seen a lot from India, from police to the ambulance and all. Well, I would be scared too if I saw that man, the god of death. Time for another break. It's about 13 minutes to the top of the hour. Brian Otwal is next with sports. Stay with us.
Discovered the world-famous Smallfix and saw the difference. Let's see how absorbent Smallfix is.
Smallfix, thanks to its ultra-absorbent particles, can keep more liquid than the other diaper brand, so you can use it comfortably all day long.
All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Smallfix.
When you're facing stubborn stains, you're always in a fierce fight. Clean Soft kicks out stains kimatekli.
It has been described as a silent killer. What exactly is pulmonary embolism?
This is a situation when a blood clot jumps into the lungs.
I had 2 clots and a pulmonary embolism that was suspected but could not be confirmed.
Pain in the calf, swelling of one leg, pain when breathing in. If you have that, go to the hospital.
We're talking about pulmonary embolism, and you can abbreviate it to PE.
Ensure you go to the hospital. Don't assume anything.
Welcome to NTV Sport. My name is Brian Otwal. This year's delayed London Marathon may now be restricted to elite runners only. This was just one of the 10 scenarios currently being considered by the organizers. The 2020 edition of the race through the British capital was meant to take place on Sunday but has been postponed until October 4th because of the coronavirus outbreak. But with no certainty as to when British government lockdown restrictions banning mass gatherings matches were suspended last month to comply with restrictions in the fight against the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. The popular stadium home ground of KPL side Ulinzi Stars had its bumpy and unevenly playing surface with poor grass cover and poor drainage revamped. However, the general cleanliness of the dilapidated main stand and other vandalized stands are still in poor state as traders use the stands and their store as their store. The traders are operating outside the perimeter wall after their trading zone was shifted to a FRA annex ground to allow for better social distancing in the fight against coronavirus. Nakuru County government plans to upgrade the 60-year-old stadium to international standards, a project whose first phase will cost 500 million shillings.
Kidogo sana. Tutaklia
Sports medical directors are due to meet in the coming weeks to discuss how sports leagues could restart even if it's only behind closed doors. The English Premier League are eyeing a
tonight has been Flora Atieno. And of course, the news is done for tonight, but we prepare for tomorrow. That's why we want to give you a heads up to what we are doing tomorrow. And we are talking about mental health, especially in these times of the global pandemic. And we'd like you to share a short video with a question or any mental health issue you may want addressed. We'll have experts in studio and on Skype or on Zoom to talk to us and answer your questions about this. So we're putting this number up. That is 0745 925 002. We will be sampling some of your views and your concerns. So send us videos on that WhatsApp line. We'll definitely sample and have your questions answered for tomorrow night. My name is Ken Mijungu. Thanks for watching NTV Weekend Edition. I'll be back tomorrow on NTV at 1 and of course NTV Weekend Edition. Remember to follow the simple government directives. Remember the curfew has been extended, so is the containment measure in Mombasa, Nairobi, Kwale and Kilifi. So you need to stay where you are in order for us to fight this pandemic. Remember to wash your hands every so often, if you can, with a lot of water and soap. Sanitize your hands whatever time you can, get the opportunity. Also remember to wear a mask when you leave your house to go to a public place. And if you don't have to leave at all, make sure you stay at home, keep your family safe, and keep the rest of us who are working for you safe. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.